Hi, and welcome to the Crash Course on Chanukah, the holiday where Jews celebrate the miraculous victory over the Greek Empire. In a time when the Jewish people were the only nation that believed in the concept of one God, in the year 167 BCE, a small band of Jewish guerrilla fighters called the Maccabees rose up and fought the first war ever for religious freedom. 3 years later, they were able to regain control of Jerusalem and rededicate the Second Temple. But the fighting continued for another 22 years until a Greek monarch finally signed a peace treaty. Why were the Jews and Greeks fighting? And why did some Jews go over to the Greek side? Greece represented a new kind of threat for the Jewish people. For the first time, a civilization emerged that mirrored the Jewish love of learning. The Greek mind pursued the study of art, mathematics, science, and philosophy with a thirst that rivaled the Jewish quest for wisdom. They put their philosophers on a pedestal, similar to the way we give great honor to our Torah scholars. And the Greeks sought to maximize human potential, and the Jews believed everyone came into this world to achieve great things. But what distinguished the Greeks and the Jews were worldviews that couldn't be further apart. It's been said that the Greeks worshipped the holiness of beauty, while the Jews found beauty in holiness. The Greek worldview was shaped by the physical universe. They sought to discover the laws and ideas that established the reality of our senses. They loved physical beauty. And human achievement was determined by how far one could push their physical or mental limitations. Their Olympics represented the spirit of competition of who could be best. The Jewish people's worldview was shaped by an outer worldly source, the Torah, which was given to them by God at Mount Sinai. Their drive for learning was to uncover the spiritual underpinnings of reality and to maximize their expression in creating a moral, just, and enlightened society. They appreciated a beauty when material things were uplifted and found their harmony with their spiritual purpose. And the greatest human achievement was to tap into the unlimited pool of potential that God provides each one of us to fulfill our unique spiritual mission. In the Torah worldview, the only competition that exists is between the competing parts of our own identity. Our souls which strive for a meaningful and eternal existence versus our physical bodies that merely want to enjoy the here and now. Ultimately, the Greeks, who were known for their tolerance, could no longer tolerate the Jewish way of life. The Syrian Greek monarch Antiochus IV banned Torah study, Sabbath observance, circumcision, and keeping the Jewish calendar under pain of death. Unfortunately, many Jews assimilated and they became major proponents of the Greek way of life. They were called Hellenists. Jerusalem was transformed into a secular city. The temple became a place of pagan worship, and a gymnasium was built right next to it where people competed in the nude. But one Jew couldn't take it anymore. Matisyahu, an elderly Jewish priest, lived in Modi'in on the outskirts of Jerusalem. As the elder of the town, the Greeks wanted him to sacrifice a pig on an altar. He refused, but then a Hellenist Jew went up to do so. Matisyahu stabbed the Jew and he killed the Greek official. And he turned to those present and said, "Those who are for God and for his covenant, follow me." His 5 sons then established a guerrilla force led by his 3rd son Judah, who was known as Maccabee, which means hammer, but also alludes to a verse in the Torah which means, "Who is like you among the powers, O God?" No one could ever imagine that a tiny force of no more than 12,000 men could successfully take on 40,000 professional soldiers who were well trained and equipped. But the Maccabees fought back, and 3 years later they regained control of the Temple of Jerusalem. To rededicate the temple, they wanted to light the Menorah, the 7-headed lamp that was lit every day as part of the temple service. But all they found was 1 day's worth of oil, which wouldn't last until new oil was prepared. But a miracle happened and the oil lasted for 8 days. To commemorate the miraculous victory over the Greeks and the miracle of the oil, the rabbis established the 8-day holiday of Chanukah. The main mitzvah of Chanukah is the lighting of the Menorah, which is the lamp with 8 stems which is lit every night with oil or candles. Now the purpose of the lighting is to publicize the miracle. So if you can, light it in a window so it can be seen by people on the street. The most beautiful way to do the mitzvah of lighting is to add a candle each night. The first night you'll have 1 candle, and by the 8th night you'll have 8 candles. Also, the candles should be in a straight line and all the same height so they can be easily distinguished from one another. Blessings are recited before you do the lighting, and they're lit by a 9th candle that's called a shamash. The rabbis didn't decree a festive meal for Chanukah because the Greeks presented a spiritual threat, not a physical threat. Nonetheless, the custom is to eat oily foods like potato latkes or sufganiyot, otherwise known as jelly-filled donuts. Children play with a dreidel, which is a 4-sided spinning top that contains 4 Hebrew letters, which stand for "a great miracle happened there." When the children had to learn the Torah in secret during the time of Chanukah, They'd often pretend to be playing with dreidels when they were discovered by the Greek soldiers. And finally, there are special prayers of thanksgiving to the Almighty, in which we acknowledge that He was the source of our success. He put the mighty in the hands of the weak, the many in the hands of the few, the impure in the hands of the pure, and those who fought against the Torah in the hands of those who are involved in Torah. I'd like to conclude the crash course with one thought. What does the word Chanukah mean? Well, surprisingly, the Hebrew root of Chanukah has 3 translations. It means dedication, which makes sense because we're talking about rededicating a temple. It's also the Hebrew word for education, because a meaningful Jewish education leads to more dedication, and Jewish education can only be successful if it's given over with dedication. And finally, the word Chanukah has to do with a beginning, because when Jews are educated and understand what's at stake, and they live their lives with passion and dedication, then no matter how dire things look, we can always create, with God's help, a new beginning. Chanukah Sameach. Have a very happy Chanukah.